I'm gonna go ahead and jump into some questions from both our registration process and from the audience, because as we're talking about this, we're getting a few questions that are around specifics to the IND submission, and some of them around the animal and tox studies that we're discussing. So I'm gonna offer up a question from Christina, who was looking for, and this is related to some questions we're taking right now, looking for more information about the FDA's view with regards to GLP tox studies. It's a multi-part question, Helen. I'm going to direct it to you, so bear with me. It's a multi-part question. Try to follow along here.
Sure.
More about the FDA's view with regards to GLP tox studies, when they're needed, when not, and why. And are there any general principles we can apply? And can we expect major changes by the FDA on this topic since the animal testing bill was signed off 30 December 2022? You can mash those up however you'd like.
Sure. So I'm going to speak generally more about cell and gene therapy. You hear regulatory folks use this term a lot. It depends. You know, in my past experience, I dealt mostly with cell therapies, and that was about 10, 20 years ago. And at that time, it's really difficult to model these type of therapies in animals. And so our initial IND package for those products were very, very minimal. I now deal with the gene therapy space, and what I can tell you is that in my past experience, GLP is not always a requirement. What's most important is that you're able to use an animal model where there is some biological effect. That's really the most relevant aspect of it. And so I can only speak with my past experience. Again, GLP was not always a requirement. In terms of this now change with the FDA and the laws with no longer requiring animal studies, I think it's going to take time. You know, it's not going to be a switch on and off where companies like Umoja, where we deal with gene therapies, is going to be able to now say we're not going to be doing animal studies. I think it's going to be most relevant to companies like that are dealing with biosimilars or you know, generics. I think it's going to take some time for us to get to a point where we can use, like, say, modeling or artificial intelligence or taking patient cells as they're now describing to kind of evaluate the toxicology of products. But I do think, you know, I applaud the FDA for taking this initiative. I do think sponsors are probably, for their own safety, going to want to do some animal studies to look at the initial toxicology of products, just because of the unknown aspects of their types of therapies.
Okay. When you say some animal studies, that kind of speaks to another question that just came in. And how much animal study and efficacy indicating data is considered necessary for pre-IND?
Again, it depends on the type of therapy. I think usually when it comes to efficacy, they want to look at least maybe one in vivo study that shows the benefit of the product. You'll also obviously have some in vitro pharmacology studies to look at the proof of concept. But usually for a phase 1, it's really looking more at the safety. That's really the purpose of a phase 1 study, is to ensure that what you're proposing to put in patients has been safely evaluated initially to determine a starting dose.